Hello, my fellow bird enthusiasts, and welcome to a new series called The Bird's Eye Review by me, Ida Gray. I'll be reviewing parks that I visit and bird, and I will be rating them out of five different core checks. My first park I will be rating is this park, a very near and dear favorite of mine, Cape May Point State Park. Please enjoy the bird's eye review with Ida Gray. I worked for many years as a park naturalist, which means I've seen everything from downed trees to poorly written maps and bad trail design where people can get lost somewhat easily. I've seen it all. So what I'll be rating these parks on different places, whether it be a park or a natural lands of some kind. I'll be rating the trail system, and the trail system check will include things like the blazes and the trail conditions, the cleanliness, which self-evident, of course, the cleanliness of the trails, the cleanliness of the park, how much garbage is there around on the ground? Are they doing a good job to pick it up? Signage. Now, this is important. Signage includes things like trail maps and other informational signs, and the signage, most important being trail maps at multiple entry points. Any place you can enter into the trail system, you should have a trail map that can point people in the right direction or have the ability for somebody to be able to get a trail map fairly easily. Nature viewing opportunities. I am, of course, a birder, which means I really enjoy finding bird species around the country. I focus on New Jersey, where I'm based, but I love all kinds of birds from all over. So I'm always looking for a really good bird viewing opportunity, things like bird blinds, and other kinds of things that photographers and wildlife enthusiasts would enjoy. Now, it doesn't, your park doesn't have to have a bird blind or a special space dedicated to bird viewing. Really, what I'm more interested in is knowing how is the use of the land there, the landscaping. Are there natural areas? Are there gardens? Are there places that would encourage natural use, like birds and bees and other animals of all kinds, to utilize the land? Because to me, of course, a park isn't just for us to use, it's also a place where we can see the nature uh, in its rawest form, nature where these animals live and thrive. So I'm always happy to see opportunities for the public to be able to find and view nature. And of course, I'll be rating local attractions. So the question is, are you going to a location specifically dedicated for a hike or a nature walk? Or are you interested in some of the other pleasures of life afterwards as well? Things like local locations for, let's say, shopping, or if you wanted to go to um, someplace else and go get food later. What's the local attractions like? What are the other things that you can do? So each one of these five core ratings will be rated out of five possible stars. At each individual other location, um, we'll be ranking things like the secludedness. The secludedness to me is very important. I'd rather be in a location where there is not a lot of other stuff. I like being out in the woods, some would say. But to others, I can see how that could be perceived as a possible safety risk. Somebody who doesn't like to hang out alone, as I do. So Of course, it's a measure, you can measure this as perceived safety. So the secludedness of a location being how close are you to the local hospitals or local roadways where you could easily get away if something was to happen, some natural disaster or something. Um, how close to highways are you? And also, of course, that being the case also for road noise, which, being a nature guy myself, I like to be out in the middle of the woods and not near other parts of the nature out there. I want to see the woods and hear the birds and not have to hear traffic constantly. I'll also be ranking the restrooms, also speaking on if there are restrooms, or if there are fees associated with the location and what those fees would be. If there is a nature center, and at this location there is a nature center, I'll be referencing the child friendliness of the park and ranking that, and also the parking, which of course is very important to notice. Some locations I've been to have hardly any parking spots at all, and you want to get there very early. And some other locations I've gone to, like the park we'll be ranking today, have quite a large parking lot with ample parking space for all. I welcome you to Cape May Point State Park. This state park is a 244-acre park with about 2.5 miles of trails that walk throughout. This is the entry point to the park. This is one of two entry points to the park, I should say. And the first thing you'll notice is, of course, the lighthouse itself. This is a key location in Cape May. It's a fantastic spot for a day's hike or a small walk in the woods, and of course is very active with bird life and other wildlife. We'll find the sign here. Welcome to 305, of course. Entering in at this sign, you'll continue to the parking lot. You can see here the Cape May trolley, which is a local phenomenon they have down there that drives around with people. And Cape May is such a natural and bird hotspot that there's even a warbler, which is this little guy, named after the location. This is the Cape May warbler. Usually, when a bird is named after or something is named after a location, it's the first place that that animal or plant or whatever was identified in the field. So Cape May warblers were first identified in the field in Cape May, New Jersey. The parking lot has ample space for all people, quite a large parking lot. And of course, as I'm the one who is taking these photos, you can see my car in the parking lot if you look real close. There it is, the Bittermobile, and you'll see my canoe on the roof. That canoe is called the Puddle Paddler. It takes me all over the place, especially in the bay, where the water's a little rough. It's a 13-foot solo canoe. I gotta say, by Old Town, it's absolutely one of my favorite purchases. So the visitor center here, it's currently under some construction, but there's a bathroom attached. The bathrooms are exceptionally clean. They've been revamped since in the last few years. They've been updated and they are really, really nice. Now, out front, of course, we start with immediate wildlife viewing opportunities here. Out front of the Nature Center and the Science Center, the little museum off to the side, we have these purple martin houses, and they are all over the place. Another view of the lighthouse here. It's very impressive. It is we have the ABCs of lighthouses here in New Jersey. The three tallest lighthouses are the Absecon Light, the Barnegat Lighthouse, and Cape May Point Lighthouse, right? So we have three lighthouses, and they are in order of height, also in order alphabetically. A, B, C, the Absecon, Barnegat, and Cape May. Here is the Nature Center, or the museum, and inside there are multiple displays. They are really well done, and I enjoy seeing all of these different kind of creatures that we don't usually get to see. Here is a little example of some of the waterfowl that you can see in the local area. This is, of course, carved out of wood. These are decoys, a very large tradition here in New Jersey and all up and down the East Coast. And here's another part of that tradition that fell out of favor many, many years ago. They now use it more as an art style. These are called flatties, and they are a painted wooden flat material cut out in the shape of a shorebird. And you can see that they are labeled here, the leftmost birds being sanderlings, the middle birds being red knots, a small semi-palmated sandpiper. They're just to the left of that rightmost ruddy turnstone. Now, these are a fantastic display of these small flatties and beautiful pictures and these displays around the building. And this is also a nice thing that you can do for your family. You can have, if you have the ability to cut out a piece of wood, you can make the shape very simply of a shorebird like these and then have your kids paint them. Very simple colors like the ruddy turnstone especially. Now here we have a close view of those purple martin houses. These are colonial nesters. And you can see many of these purple martins together, nesting on inside of these structures here out front of the museum. They have this out front of the parking lot. Now they have multiple picnic pavilions as well for you to be able to use. So here is the East Shelter. And this East Shelter is direct. Oh, there we go, of course. In the fields around our the park itself, keep an eye out for little sparrows and things like that in the grass. This is a field sparrow. And right next to the East Shelter here is the Hawkwatch platform. The Hawkwatch platform is active from October to September to November. And there will be staff on the Hawkwatch platform that will be able to answer all of your migration questions. Here's another view of the Hawkwatch platform, the Cape May Hawkwatch. And you can see all different kinds of species that migrate by in quite large numbers throughout the morning. This is a northern harrier. This is a female northern harrier. It's a species of hawk that hunts over wide expanses, especially marshland. Now we have an aerial view of this park itself. The Cape May Point State Park is not super huge, but it's a large enough park. And you can see the trail system is outlined in the map itself. Now, many times on Google, if you search the maps, you will find things like this, where they have a map associated with the trail system, and it actually is partly composed of an overlay of what the trail system actually looks like. And this is the map that you can find online when you search for the Cape May Point State Park itself. You'll come up with a map like this. Every one of our state parks has a map similar to this, and it shows you all of the trail systems and the color-coded blazes that are associated with those trail systems. Now, this is important. As I said before, this is part of the signage. On site, the signage should be at every entry point to the trail system so that every point you can enter, you won't get lost. You can see where you are and where the best place to go would be from that location. You can also figure out how you want to plan your day out. Some people like to hike many, many miles. Some people like a short trail day. Most of the trail, you will find a lot of other plants around the sides of the trail as well, like this, which is poison ivy. Of course, always be aware when you're walking out in the woods, you may come across stinging bugs, like bees and wasps. You may come across things like poison ivy. And just to be aware of what is out there in the woods. So I wanted to include this picture just to make sure all of you folks are aware that this is something you could run into. Many of the trails are maintained so that this is not overgrowing in the trail and you're not going to be rubbing up against it very much, but it is there just to know what it looks like and be aware of it. Most of the trail system here on the main trail is this raised boardwalk. Now be aware, it may be slippery when wet, and there are no bicycles allowed on the boardwalk itself. These are the blazes they use in place of the traditional blaze, which is a painted mark on a tree. And instead, they use these painted arrows uh, to denote which direction the trail is heading, which trail you'd like to take. And don't be afraid as you walk around to bring your older family members there, as there are benches spread throughout the entirety of the park. Now, like I said, this is an exceptionally important bird area. Now, spring migration brings little warblers like these guys. This is an American redstart, and our spring migration usually starts around late March, and it can go all the way through about late May. That's when we see the bulk of our warblers coming through. And then we have fall migration, and that starts usually around late July, bringing our shorebirds first, and our warblers come next, usually around late August. And then our waterfowl begin to make their way down, usually by early to mid September. And some of our waterfowl won't show up until early October. So, of course, as I said, some of these nature and bird viewing opportunities like the bird blind. Now, this blind no longer exists, but the location itself is still a structure that you can go out and walk onto and view the lakes. So this is the site of the old bird blind. It's no longer a blind, it's just an open area. But I will say that it offers amazing wildlife viewing opportunities. These two American widgeon were seen in this pool right out front of the lighthouse. And here we have a view of the pool. Now, this is taken just a few weeks ago. It's August here. And this was taken just a few weeks ago. So our waterfowl, of course, aren't here yet. They won't show up until a little bit later in the season. So right now, the pool looks a little empty, but it's still a fantastic spot to stop. And all throughout the year, you can find muskrats swimming around in this pool as well. And they're always a fun sight. Now, another really beautiful image from this area, right from that dock. And you can see the lighthouse in the distance and the really nice cattail reeds in the front. Now, of course, that's a fantastic freshwater habitat for all kinds of different animals, from mammals and insects to birds that prefer to hide in the reeds. As you walk around the trail system, especially the raised platforms, you'll find these benches pretty closely positioned together, so you don't have to really worry about getting too tired if you're walking out there. There are places to stop and rest. And there's also some really, really pretty animals and plants to be seen while you're walking the trail. This is Maryland Meadow Beauty, and you could see a bee next to it. And that's one of our interesting metallic colored bees. It's metallic green, very interesting. We also have this, a very nice, very red trumpet vine, also called trumpet creeper. It's a native species around our area, and it grows very, very well. Sometimes a little too well. It can take over an area pretty easily. Now, this is one of the multiple lookouts to view Lighthouse Pond. There are two parts of the pond. There's Lighthouse Pond East and Lighthouse Pond West. Now, you can follow these blazes and another bench, of course. You can follow these blazes around and continue on the trail system, or they have a large sign. This isn't always a common factor. You don't always have very large signs like this pointing to places like places of interest, like parking lots or nature centers. But this definitely is helpful, especially on a small and kind of condensed trail system, because those can seemingly be difficult to navigate sometimes, and it's easy to get confused, especially if you don't know where the closest trail map is or didn't bring a trail map with you. There's some more poison ivy on the ground. Of course, this is way off to the side of the trail system, so definitely not, I wasn't tramping through the underbrush at any point. Again, many ways to find your way back to where you want to go. They have different kinds of ecosystems as you walk through this park, and they have a couple different places as you walk over even wetlands like this, where there's a metal bridge and we get to walk over that and see water beneath our feet. Now, the trail diverges here, and this trail goes north and goes out to the road to the north of uh, the state park. This is a more recent acquisition and opening of a trail. And here you can make the left, and that would continue out down that, which I believe they call the purple trail. And to the right, you will take the yellow or blue. Now, be aware in the spring, you will come across all kinds of different warblers and birds singing in the trees. And this is a black and white warbler, very tired after a full night of migration. And it landed on the ground by my feet and just hung out and was eating insects off the ground. Now, of course, the ever-present benches, very important, honestly, very important for any park to have some form of place to rest, especially on extended trails. But an area like Cape May, they have a lot of people who are just wanting to get out into nature, and this is a fantastic idea. You don't need to have a massive trail system to have a bunch of benches set around. This is a fantastic spot to have as many benches as fit within the bounds of your park and not to interfere with the enjoyment of nature, so that everybody, from the very young to the very old, can come and enjoy this beautiful park. Another one of those viewing platforms. And if you can't tell, on the left side, there's another bench as well. So these are fantastic places to go and stop and enjoy the scenery. What a beautiful pool. This is the west portion of Lighthouse Pond. And of course, in the winter, we get our really beautiful waterfowl species. This is a northern pintail, a drake northern pintail. That means it's a male. And of course, the blazes, continuing to follow the blazes on your preferred trail. We come over here to another metal bridge, and we continue out towards the dune system. These are bayberries. These are a very important, very necessary part of our ecosystem. The bayberries are a plant that produces a small waxy covered fruit, and that is eaten by birds during migration season, especially the fall. You'll see as you walk towards the ocean, you can see right in front of us is the dune habitat, and we're looking at different kind of plants, and the trail has changed from that raised boardwalk to more of a stone path, stone and sand, and it is fairly hard packed. Here's the sand close-up view of the ground beneath our feet. We'll be walking on more condensed pebbles and material like that. There you go. Of course, yellow flag iris, really fantastic flowers growing out there in the freshwater pools. And this is a view of, we're walking back now, back towards the lighthouse. So we've made a full loop. This is about 1.25 miles. And of course, we have access to the waterfront here, walking right out into the ocean if we'd want to, seeing all kinds of nature. And out there, of course, being the American oyster catcher, a very common species to be seen here on the beaches of Cape May. This is the dune habitat from the hawk watch. So this is the other side of the fence looking out towards the dunes again. And we've come back to the hawk watch. Now, this is an important piece because, of course, there's no fee to enter into the state park, but there is a fee if you're interested in climbing up the lighthouse. So you can climb up the lighthouse. There is a fee for adults. It is $12. For children, which are ages 3 to 12, it's $8. It's $8 for veterans. And active military are free. It's also free to members of the Cape May MAC, or Museum Arts and Culture. And you can look up online to join that if you are so interested. But it is just $12 for adults. That's not horrible for a single person going to enjoy a walk like I was, but a family can begin to get expensive, and I understand that. So here we have a view of the lighthouse pool. This is the east pool. This is from the top of the lighthouse. Here's a continuation, and that little block of material on the right side, you can see our bench and our initial platform. That's where the bird blind was. Now, this is the burrow of Cape May Point. Small houses. So I would consider this park to be fairly secluded, although it's not in the middle of big city. It's really very small town feel, and I appreciate that very much. It's very quiet. This is Bunker Pond, and out front you'll see the Hawk Watch. And that white sandy trail, actually just to the left of the sandy beach, that trail is where we took our photo looking at the dunes. Oh, there I am. That's me at the top of the lighthouse. Overall, our core 5 ratings. The trail system gets a 5 out of 5 from me. The trail system is fantastic. The blazing is really well done. It's very easy to follow. The cleanliness of the park is a 5 across the board. It's fantastic. They do such a great job maintaining the garbage cans and keeping the trail clean. The only thing I have to dock a point for is on the signage. They have one main trail map posted at the front of the nature trail. Now, they don't have a sign dedicated to the trail system to the right of the Hawk Watch, which is another entry point. They don't have a trail map dedicated for the trail there. So if you took a walk up that way, you wouldn't get lost per se, because it's not that huge, but you may not know which way you're going. If you went straight all the way, you'd come to another park, which is the South Cape May Meadows. That's another park that's just to the north of this Cape May Point State Park. That's the only star that I can possibly dock them, because the signage is very good, and they have trail maps available, like I said, online as well. So you can always get a trail map in advance. The nature viewing opportunities, I would claim that to be a 5 out of 5. And the local attractions, they have so many things that you can do. So many local attractions like the Revolution Rail, which is a bike riding large kind of piece of equipment that you ride down the old railway there, and they still do multiple stops along the track and do birding and do historical information. Very interesting stuff. The Washington Street Mall in downtown Cape May, and the Cape May Lewis Ferry, all of which are accessible to everyone. Now, the secludedness, like I said, it's not rural, but it's below suburban. It's definitely in the frame of a quiet town. There's not a lot of road noise. You don't hear the road very much at all. You're close to everything you'd need to be close to. You're still in the middle of nature. The fee is exclusively for the lighthouse, and it's fairly cheap, but again, I understand. The park, to enter the park, is free. The restrooms, they have restrooms, and they are very clean. The Nature Center, I would say that Nature Center itself is a fantastic location. The Nature Center, currently under construction, but the museum that's open still is a very good spot to stop in. The child friendliness, they don't have things like a playground on site for kids to enjoy themselves, but if they like to get outside, it's definitely makes it this park a 3 out of 5 for the child friendliness. The museum is very good for that for young people. It has a lot of information in there, and it's at a level that people of all ages can understand. And the parking is a big 5 out of 5 for me. Parking lot's very large, spacious, and can hold a lot of people. Well, thank you so much for listening to me ramble on about Cape May Point State Park. And also, don't forget to check out my website. That's hiddenbitternbirding.weebly.com, and consider hiring me for a private birding and nature tour. Are you a member of a club looking for speakers? Well, I do that too. And you can always reach me at hiddenbitternbirding@gmail.com. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you had a great time. As always, bird on.